Okay, inshallah. Yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنب والصاحب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله وأعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا والذين ينفقون أموالهم رئاء الناس ولا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ومن يكن الشيطان له قرينا فساء قرينا وماذا عليهم لو آمنوا بالله واليوم الآخر وأنفقوا مما رزقهم الله وكان الله بهم عليما إن الله لا يظلم مثقال ذرة وإن تك حسنة يضاعفها ويؤت من لدنه أجرا عظيما فكيف إذا جئنا من كل أمة بشهيد وجئنا بك على هؤلاء شهيدا يومئذ يود الذين كفروا وعصوا الرسول لو تسوى بهم الأرض ولا يكتمون الله حديثا صدق الله العظيم. The near translation, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, and I'm going to read the ayah that we went over last week because the two will flow together. He says, worship Allah and join nothing with Him. Be good to your parents, to your relatives, to orphans, to the needy, to neighbors near and far, to travelers in need, and to your slaves. Allah does not like arrogant, boastful people who are miserly and order other people to be the same, hiding the bounty Allah has given them. We have prepared a humiliating torment for such ungrateful people. Nor does Allah like those who spend their wealth to show off, who do not believe in Him or the last day. Whoever has shaitan as his companion has an evil companion. What harm would it do them to believe in Allah and the last day and give charitably from the sustenance Allah has given them? Allah knows them well. He does not wrong anyone as much as the weight of a speck of dust. He doubles any good deed or multiplies any good deed and gives a tremendous reward of His own. What will they do when we bring a witness from each community with you as a witness against the people? On that day, those who disbelieved and disobeyed the Prophet will wish that the earth could swallow them up. They will not be able to hide anything from Allah. So this is Surah An-Nisa. Last week, we discussed 10 categories of people whom Allah subhanahu, or 10 categories, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there as well, so I'm not going to say people, but 10 categories who have rights upon us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He spoke about specific rights at the beginning of the surah that belong to disenfranchised people in the society. For example, orphans and women, or people who there's a high possibility to take advantage of. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, but there's general rights that need to be given to different people. So this ayah is very comprehensive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, number one, worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and don't associate any partners with Him. Right? Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think that's easy. There's two types of shirk though. There's a shirk like the ones who do puja to idols and stuff. That's one shirk. There's also the modern day shirk that's described in Surah Al-Kahf, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He explains to us in Surah Al-Kahf that there's a group of people who they might say nominally that they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but what they do is they ascribe cause and effect such a high status that they say that this takes the place of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I do this, definitely I will get this. Right? I did this, therefore I will get this. And if things don't work out the way that they think it should, they become upset, they become confused, they begin to question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And this is the story of the two people of the gardens in Surah Al-Kahf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about it, that the one man, he planned so much and he had so much. He said, I have all of this. Why? Because of my planning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has caused it to happen. And I don't think the time will ever come when all of this will go wrong, but even if it does, then I'll end up even better than I am before because of my planning. And his friend said to him, why are you talking like this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He teaches us three things to save ourselves from the shirk. And it's worth mentioning. Number one, he said to his friend that how do you associate partners with Allah when Allah khalaqaka min turabin thumma min nutfatin thumma sawwaka rajula. Allah created you from dirt and then sperm and then made you a man. So number one, we can never forget where we came from. Right? If a person in this day and age, if you want to save yourself from shirk in associating partners, meaning associating causes along with Allah. Sure, we have to use the causes. Employ whatever means that we have, but don't think that they in and of themselves guarantee anything. It's Allah's fault, right? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. Remember where you came from. Don't ever think that I've done all of this, now I'm too good for this or that. Nobody is ever too good to put their head on the ground in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody is ever too good to forget where they came from. Have you ever heard of Ayas, the servant of Sultan Mahmud Ghaznawi? So he was very close to Sultan Mahmud Ghaznawi. He was one of the first Muslim kings in India. And he had this servant who was very wise. So Ayaz, this servant of his, was very wise. People were jealous of him because he was close to the king. When you see somebody who's like close to an important person, people, they become jealous. They begin to say things like, he's this chamcha and this and that. They say these types of things. They become jealous. So for Ayaz, they say, why does the king like him so much? He's simple, he's not smart, he's not educated. So then they were trying to find some dirt on Ayaz. So they noticed in his room he had like a cabinet, and it was locked. And he would never open it in front of anybody, and he would guard this key very, very tightly. So that people began to spread rumors that Ayaz, he secretly steals from Sultan, and he puts things in this closet, and that's where he stores it. So Sultan Mahmud said, no, Ayaz can't be like this. The people kept telling him, okay, I'll show you how Ayaz is. So they went to Ayaz's room. They told Ayaz, open the cabinet. Ayaz said, no, I won't. He said, you have to. This is my command. Eventually they forced him. So open the cabinet. And what was inside of there? Gold, silver, diamonds? Nothing like that. There were rags, 2 rags. He said, what is this? He said that these were the rags that I was wearing when I first came to your palace and when I first met you. And so now I'm so respected in this kingdom. So now every day before I go to sleep, when I'm alone in my room, I put these rags back on and I look in the mirror and I say, Ayaz, this is where you came from. This is where you came from, and this is all what the Sultan gave you. Yeah, you should say that Allah gave it to him, but you could learn a lesson from there, right? Don't forget your origins. Don't forget where you came from. Number 2, what a person has to do is realize that at any moment it could all go away. In the story of the 2 gardens, the person says that it could be that a wind comes and affects your garden, right? And ruins all of your life's work. We have to realize in any one moment, whatever we have, Allah can take it away whenever He wants. Either through a physical disaster, or a personal calamity, like a car crash, or a sickness or something, or a stock market crash. If you have all your money in stocks and this and that the market goes down suddenly, Allah can take it all away in one moment, right? So we have to know that. Alhamdulillah, Allah's maintained us. But it's Allah that's done it. And at one moment, everything can fall apart. And lastly, remember that everything that happens, it's because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's no power besides Allah. Say, Ma sha'Allahu la quwwata illa billah. Meaning that whatever things are in front of me, this is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put it there. La quwwata illa billah, and I wouldn't have the ability to even use these resources if it weren't for the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me. If a person keeps these 3 things in mind, no matter how much you have it won't affect you, you'll be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, like Usman Ghani radiallahu anhu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Then after that, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and to be excellent to parents. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us. We have to be good to our parents. We spoke in detail about that. وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى, to our relatives. And remember, when it comes to spending money, giving zakat, sadaqah, one thing is you have to look at the need. There could be somebody in front of you, they have need, you just give it to them. But if everybody is the same to you, you get extra reward if you give to your relatives. If you have a relative that's in need for sadaqah or zakat eligible, Rasulullah said you get double reward over here, right? Double reward. You get the reward of sadaqah. You also get the reward of, increasing family ties. And there's also certain situations when a person has a certain amount of money, and it's not really a lot, where it becomes wajib on you, wajib from a fiqhi perspective, wajib for you to support certain mahram relatives of you, meaning aunts, uncles, etc. It becomes wajib for you to support them if they're needy and they're struggling, right? You'll have to, if you have a certain amount of money. And again, it's not that high. It's not even the nisab of zakat. It's less than that. Okay? So then you have to take care of yourself. وَبِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى, the orphans. وَالْمَسَاكِينَ, the poor people. وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى, your neighbors, near and far. Our neighbors have a haqq. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Jibreel alayhi salam came to me so many times and reminded me about neighbors, being good to neighbors, that I thought that neighbors would be added to wirasa, that our neighbors would inherit from us, right? وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْجَارِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْجَارِ الْجُنُوبِ وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, and your faraway neighbors, meaning not next door, but in your neighborhood. And وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ, whoever's next to you at any given moment. And we talked about our spouses, they're in this class. We talked about that in Jummah today. وَالصَّاحِبِ بِالْجَنْبِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, and travelers. Travelers are in a lot of difficulty. Sometimes you see somebody, an unfamiliar face in the masjid, and you just talk to them. Oh, you're traveling, and it gives you a lot of comfort that somebody just said salam to them. You might advise them where to get food or something. It's a big help. وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ, and then those who are dependent on us, or as Brother Izzuddin gave the good example, employees, people who are under our care, under our power, right? وَمَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ. Now, those are the 10 rights, 10 groups of that whose rights we are bound to fulfill. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do so. But now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions 4 types of people, or 4 qualities that will come inside of a person that will prevent you from fulfilling the rights of these others. Now remember, we start with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if a person doesn't fulfill Allah's rights, it's very difficult for them to fulfill the rights of others. Because why? When you fulfill Allah's right, it teaches you how to treat others, right? And a lot of times what happens, you think that a person is, very nice or humanitarian, but the way that they fulfill the rights of others is very arbitrary. Whereas in Islam, there's a lot of balance. So now, who are these people? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, number 1, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ مُخْتَالًا فَخُورًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not love arrogant, boastful people. So when a person is arrogant, it's very unlikely that they'll be able to fulfill the rights of all of these people. Why? Because a person, they think that they're better than others. They have an inflated self-image. They begin to think, I'm like this, I'm like that. Why should I help somebody? They should help themselves. I started out my life with nothing. I came to this country with $100 in my pocket and nothing else. And I was able to, I worked 2 jobs and 3 jobs and lived with, 15 roommates in a 2-bedroom apartment. I did all of this and I made it. Why should I help anybody else? People, they need to work harder. If they'll have what I have, if they work as hard as me, if they're as intelligent as me. When a person has arrogance, why are you going to look after other people? This arrogance will lead to people also sometimes questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When things don't go their way, they fall into that modern day shirk. Or they begin to say, they have arrogance in regard to ulama, people who know more about deen than them. So then they begin to question the deen as well. No, this doesn't make logical sense to me. Therefore I won't follow this law. I won't follow that. And I'll just go on like a little side tangent over here. And sometimes people, they might take this in a bad way, but it's not meant to be bad at all. When it comes to questioning deen, right? Anytime you want to question something, you have to have a certain expertise or a certain level of qualification. For example, this in COVID, all of these guidelines, they came. Wear mask. I wore mask, you wore mask, everybody wore mask. Stand 6 feet apart. Okay, we stood 6 feet apart. We did all of those things, right? Then you have people, they're sending all of these, like, you want to call it conspiracy videos or whatever you want to call them, online, right? Now, if the person is like a doctor or, like an infectious disease expert and they're questioning these things, fine, they have the right to question them. But some random person posting a TikTok video saying this or that, they don't really have like the qualification to question. That's why like imams, by and large, we just kind of went with like the medical advice, right? And saw, okay, is there accommodation for it in fiqh? Like for example, standing 6 feet apart, yeah, namaz will count, no problem. Just keep going, right? Is there precedence of the masajid being closed? That's a little bit controversial, but whatever. We went with these things, right? So, then you go to court. If you get called to court, over there, what are you going to do? Are you going to try to defend yourself? No, usually you'll just get a good lawyer because you don't want to get yourself into trouble. That's what we do when it comes to dunyawi things. Similarly, when it comes to deen, right? A person has to have, like we think that it's all like egalitarian and when it comes to dunya, you need expertise. When it comes to deen, you don't need any expertise. Just pick a translation of the Quran. When every translation of the Quran is no translation, I should say rather, is free from the bias of the author, and many words can be translated in many different ways, and they could give this implication or that implication. Pick that up and pick, a translation of Sahih Bukhari, and that's it. I could practice my deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't make the deen that cheap, right? He didn't make it like that. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that's why I'm saying, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he gave example for us in his lifetime. In Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's lifetime were Sahabas who were the closest to him, who were knowledgeable, who were pious, were they randomly saying, no, this ayah means this to me. Oh, this doesn't make sense to me, therefore I'll just do this. No, I don't see the logic in this command, and I don't care what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, I'll do this. No. I don't care what Muaz bin Jabal is saying, I'm going to do. No. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he made statements about certain Sahaba. For example, the most afqah of the Sahaba, I'm paraphrasing, is Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala an. If you have questions, go and ask him. If the most knowledgeable of halal and haram, Muaz bin Jabal radiyallahu an, go and ask him about halal and haram. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, even when it comes to leading the salah, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam didn't say the most pious person should lead the salah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ya'ummukum aqra'ukum, the best reciter. And at least what Hanafis interpret that to mean is the most knowledgeable, right? And then the Shafi'is say just best reciter. Hanafis say more knowledgeable. They say why? Because everybody at that time was knowledgeable anyway. They knew the ahkam of the salah. Therefore, you go to the next thing, which is best reciter. They should lead the salah, not the most pious. The most knowledgeable or the person who has the best recitation, meaning Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he put in place objective standards. This is what you need to do to opine on things. This is what you need to do to lead in the dini realm, right? Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said this. Nobody's saying not to take admonishment from the Quran, advice from the Quran. There's many ayat like that. We're talking about setting laws, setting fiqh. Because Rasulullah says that he trained certain Sahabas and made them like the Muftis of the time, right? The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala. So other Sahaba would go and ask them. Now America is very interesting, and I don't think there's really any country like this in the world, right? Other than America. In America, like in other countries, in Muslim countries, as you go through school, they teach you about deen too. So you see the average person that comes from Egypt or Syria or Pakistan, they have like pretty good knowledge of deen. Like it's like a basic level. Like they'll ask you like more detailed Messiah. Like somebody who's born and raised here, the questions that you'll ask, that they'll ask a scholar or imam or something, you gotta like just like, let me just read some to you right now. They're anonymous, don't worry. Like they came today. Let me read this. Sorry, one second. Okay, so like if the people of the book made dua, does Allah answer them? Do jinns attend the janazah of the pious? Like stuff like this, like just like random questions. Whereas like somebody who's like from a different like grew up in an Islamic society may ask something like, after you say the fourth takbir in janazah, do you drop your hands or not before the salam? Because you know like all of these ahkam. Other people they ask you like silly things, right? So anyways, like you see that in other countries. In America, on the other hand, you see very high professional achievement. Muslims, mashallah, well off in this country. So you'll see people who have master's degrees. You have people who have, like PhDs, people who are managers, people who have leadership positions in their work. So they see that I'm an intelligent person, right? And I'm very smart, so I'm going to take this over to deen as well. But what happens is, in America, you have people who have like the equivalent of a master's degree in secular education. When it comes to deen, they might have a first or second grade education, right? That's just how it is. Because when they were little, they didn't go to maktab, they didn't go to Sunday school, or they went to maktab, they finished reading the Quran when they're 8 years old. After that, they never came again. So they didn't learn all of like the masail and things that you need to learn. And then these same people who have like the second grade equivalent education in this doesn't make sense to me, that doesn't make sense to me. And what happens? Because I'm so successful in other fields, I should be able to opine here. None of this is to say anything bad about anyone. None of this is to say that a person shouldn't learn. You can learn at any age. We have Ubaid Bhai over here. His father, rahimahullah, he passed away in Ramadan, I think 1 year ago now, or maybe 2 years. He, at an old age, like 50 plus, he began to study, and mashallah, he became alim too, right? He went through the whole process from the very beginning. He said, look, I want to learn about deen, but I know that I've spent my life in another field. Now I want to learn. And he started 6, 7, 8 years, he dedicated to that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made him an alim. So person, we can do that, right? But a lot of times this arrogance comes in. No, this person is like this person is like, oh, his opinion isn't good, his opinion isn't good. Or, like sometimes people, they'll tell, like, all imams, they have this story. Like somebody, community member will come and they say like in a nice way, mashallah, your knowledge both improved, right? Like your knowledge has improved a lot. Maybe, but how are you the judge of that, right? It could just be the person's delivery improved. Delivery is one thing, right? Of giving, like imparting information is one thing. The person may have had the knowledge before, right? But like what makes a person a judge of that your knowledge has increased or it hasn't increased? Like these are things like you have to be at some level to make these types of statements and claims. So nothing bad, but it's just something we should keep in mind. Number 2, fakhura. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like boastful people, right? People who are obsessed with their own possessions, whether they be physical or whether they be qualities that they have. Person begins to think, I'm so generous. A person begins to think, I'm so intelligent. And they always speak about this. They begin to boast. These two things together, these two qualities, arrogance and boastfulness. One is like, okay, a person keeps it to themselves. I'm good. I know I'm good. I don't have to tell anybody, but I'm good. Another thing is you begin to tell everybody how good you are too, how great you are too. Right? These two qualities Allah hates. 3-4 times in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings them together. Wallahu la yuhibbu kulla mukhtalin fakhur. And other place, Surah Hadid, and maybe some other place. Any other place? Mukhtalun fakhur. Mukhtalan fakhura over here. Wallahu la yuhibbu. Allah hates this combination, right? Wallahu la yuhibbu kulla mukhtalin fakhur. When a person is arrogant and when a person is boastful. Why? Because Allah is the greatest. When a person begins to think that they're great, they're forgetting their situation and their level with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person boasts, again, what are we? One time somebody came to Malik bin Dinar. We know Malik bin Dinar, right? Do you know who Malik bin Dinar is? Shahud? Huh? Yeah, muhaddis. But how did he start his life, Malik bin Dinar? Does anybody know? No, that was Fudayl bin Iyad. This Malik bin Dinar, he was a policeman. And he was, mashallah, good person, right? But he was good, but then what happened is he had a calamity came in his life. And that was his daughter died. Every father, they love their daughter, right? You love a daughter more differently than you love your son. Just, alhamdulillah, like in my kids, the second was a daughter. Every child after that, I'm hoping daughter, it's just sons, right? So they came today after Jummah, and they said that, I have something for you. I said, oh, you had a kid? Yeah, I had 2. There's twins. So he gives like 2 daughters. I said, mashallah, you're lucky. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you 2 daughters. And this name, in Rasulullah's time, there's a side note. What was the most two common names? Do you know what were the most common names in Rasulullah's time? Amongst women. What were they? Fatima was one. Zainab. Yeah, these are two most common names in Rasulullah's time. Fatima and Zainab in women. Doesn't Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had two wives named Zainab, and he had a daughter named Zainab as well. And what does Zainab mean? Zainab is from, there is a statement, just in Mudaf ilay, Zainu Abin, right? The father's beautification, the thing that beautifies the father's beauty. Zainu Abin, right? And it just became Zainab. So every father, they love their daughter. So his daughter happened to pass away when he was young, when she was young. So this crushed him. So he began to turn to alcohol. He's a Muslim. He began to turn to alcohol, so he's drinking alcohol and here and there. And one night he goes out and you think, I'm going to buy alcohol. So he takes his money and he happens to see the paper, and he looks at the paper, has Allah's name on there. But this is, one thing people here, they don't have like this adab and ihtiram. They think it's okay, like put the Quran on the floor and walk away, put the Quran on a chair and walk away. Like you might notice when we came in, I gave you these two books, you put them on the chair. I went and picked them up, I put them on top of the backpack, right? So this, people never have adab here. But the Sahaba, the people say, well, when did Rasulullah do this? He did it, right? But the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, like Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhuma, when the Mus'haf was compiled, he used to pick up the Mus'haf and he would kiss it and he would say that Haza kalamullah. This is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have to show honor. He said, he saw Allah's name on the floor. He said, no. How can this be? So he took the money that he had and he went and he purchased perfume. And he took this paper with Allah's name, he put perfume on it and he put it in a high place in his house. That money he was going to spend for alcohol, he spent it on this perfume. He fell asleep. That night happened to be the 15th night of Sha'ban, Shab-e Barat as we say, or Laylatul Bara'ah. Nowadays again, people, they try to say bid'ah. Shaykh Albani, rahimahullah, who is so strict about everything, he says that you cannot, there's so many ahadith about this night that is mutawatir, that you can't deny there's some fadila on this night. Yes, to do this or to do that specific thing, yeah, you could say that to specify any deed, that's bid'at. But to say that there's no virtue to this night, there's so many riwayat and ahadith. Shaykh Albani, he says you can't say anything. Shaykh Albani like strict, right? Everything, dhaif. He said this is mutawatir, right? So anyways, right? So this is the night of Shab-e Barat. Laylatul Bara, 15th night of Shab. In his dream, he falls asleep, he sees it's the day of judgment, right? It's the day of judgment. And he has to go to Jahannam. He's sentenced to Jahannam. So he begins to run and he sees an old man. He tells the old man, help me. The old man said, I can't help you, but go over there. There might be somebody by that hill who may help you. So he ran over there and he found his daughter. So his daughter grabbed his hand and said, Papa, what are you doing? And then he told the angel, this is my father. He's a nice person. And she said, what are you doing with your life? He said, that old man, that's your deeds. He's very weak. He can't do anything. He can't help you, right? He can't help you. All he could do is indicate you go somewhere else, right? And then she showed him around, different places. Then she recited an ayah. She said, look, we learn Quran here too. And she recited the ayah of Quran, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Hasn't the time come for the hearts to become humbled in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to submit to the truth and to that which has descended with the truth? This was the same, Nizar bhai, you were saying that Fuzail bin Iyad, this is the same ayah he heard that changed his life. And this changed Abdullah bin Mubarak's life too. And this changed Malik bin Dinar's life too. So then he made tawbah and he changed, he became muhaddith. But now we're coming back to when a person, when they're boastful, when their self-reality is, when it's delusional. Somebody was strutting around and they said something, do you know who I am? Malik bin Dinar said, yeah, I know who you are. You started out as a piece of sperm, as something so dirty that if it got on your father or mother's clothing, they'd wash it off. And your end is going to be dirt that's full of bugs. And in between you have all of this najasa that you're carrying around with you. That's what he said. And he said it to a woman, right? So that she's known for her beauty. And when she heard that, her whole life changed and she made tawbah. And she even asked him to marry her. I don't remember if he married her or not, but her whole life changed because of that. So that's our reality. That's what we came from. Something so dirty that we have to take a shower. Comes out. If it gets on our clothing, the namaz won't count. We'll have to clean it. And our end is going to be into the dirt. And in between we have all sorts of najasat inside of us. If a person were to have, Allah protect, like when a person has to get that catheter or something attached, nobody likes to see that. But that's what's inside of us all the time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His fadl and karam, He's allowed us to appear in such a way that people don't see our insides. Not our physical insides, not our spiritual insides. They just see what's in front of them, right? So we have to remember where we came from. So Allah doesn't like this that a person is arrogant or boastful. Inna Allah la yuhibbu man kana mukhtalan fakhura. Now, other quality Allah doesn't like. Alladhina yabkhaluna wa ya'muruna an-nasa bil bukhl. A person who's greedy. Wa ya'muruna an-nasa bil bukhl. And they order others to be greedy as well. Right? One thing is to be greedy. A lot of times when you're arrogant, you think, I don't have to help anybody. And then this leads to greed. Now, greed in and of itself is fitri. It's part of our fitrah. It's not a bad thing either. Let me ask you a question. This is a fiqhi question. Is it halal? Is it jais for you to give away all of your wealth to the Pakistan flood relief? Huh? Is it? Anyone? Is it jais? Let's say that there's a masjid being built. Is it jais for you to donate all of your wealth to this cause? Permissible.
I would say
Jais? Huh?
I think I would say it's okay.
No, it's not jais. It's not jais. Because then this will put you into fakhr. It'll make faqr. It'll make you beg from other people. It'll put your family in difficulty. Then you say, well, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he did it. It's permissible or jais for somebody who has the iman and tawakkul of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh. Even Umar radiallahu anh, he brought half of his things. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, he brought everything, right? Right? So you can't. So this greed that we have, this thought of taking care of ourselves is fine. We need it, right? You need to have some restraint. You need to still take care of your family, take care of your responsibilities, save for a rainy day. All of that is needed. There's nothing wrong with that. But when this greed, this natural greed within us, when it surpasses its bounds to the point where you're not giving even when you have and when you need to, and you become so greedy that you can't stand to see other people help others out. Why are you giving it to him? Why do you need to give it to him? You don't need to. No, these people, they're all like this. Why are you going to give to this cause? Oh, this, masjid always fundraising. Oh, this organization is always coming and asking for money. They're probably not even giving it to the right place. Like when you're young, you work different jobs too. So I had one job, right? So owner, not the owner. This is the sad part. He wasn't even the owner. He was a manager. He was Punjabi. So it's like he was not Punjabi, but he was Indian. He was Hindu, right? So what this guy, he was just coffee and stuff we have to serve. So what he would do, and every time when the order came in, he will get mad at all of the employees. He'd be like, "Why are you filling the whole cup with coffee and cream? Just put a little bit of water on the top, right? Just put a little bit of water on the top." This is not even your store. You're not benefiting in any way. Like this much milk you're saving, this much coffee you're saving, this much cream you're saving. It's not even your store. You don't own it. You're not profiting from it. You're still just getting your hourly wage. But when greed comes in a person, they can't stand. They can't stand to see anybody else even do something, even do what they're supposed to do. Right? This is greed. وَيَأْمُرُونَ النَّاسَ بِالْبُخْلِ وَيَكْتُمُونَ مَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. And they hide the fadl and the bounty that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. You see this, there's people who are professional beggars. They say like that. I haven't looked into it, but they say the average, you can tell me, how much is the average beggar in New York City? I've heard that some of them are quite wealthy. $40,000-$50,000 income per year. your city, that's why I'm saying. That there's people like this. That people who they have they have a nice, this happened in Atlanta. So I'm from Atlanta, right? There was one guy, the people, they would call in on the radio, they'd always see him on the side of the road with a broken car. And so every day they give him a little bit of money and be different. So one time they followed him home, they saw he had a nice house, he had this, he had that. This is his job, just begging from people. There's professional beggars as well, right? Some person, they're rich, yet they hide that. Why? So they could take from others and they don't have to give others. Or we have, and we know that there's somebody in need, but then we say, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I can't do anything for you. وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ عَذَابًا مُهِينًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prepared a disgraceful punishment for them, right? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions one other group of people, or one other class of people as well, that they won't fulfill the rights of others. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ. Those who spend their wealth. So it looks like it's the opposite of a greedy person. الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ رِئَاءَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. They spend their money trying to show off to people, but they don't believe in Allah, they don't believe in the Day of Judgment. وَلَا بِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَنْ يَكُنِ الشَّيْطَانُ لَهُ قَرِينًا. The one who takes shaitan as a friend, فَسَاءَ قَرِينًا. What a terrible friend that they've taken. Now this person, you'll say, well, they're giving money, so they're fulfilling the rights of some people. But they won't do it if others don't see. They won't do it if you come to them at a time of need privately, and you don't want to be embarrassed, they won't help you. Or they'll help you, but the end of Surah Baqarah talked about this. قَوْلٌ مَعْرُوفٌ وَمَغْفِرَةٌ خَيْرٌ مِّن صَدَقَةٍ يَتْبَعُهَا أَذًى. That it's better to say something nice, I can help you, than to give sadaqah but keep following it up with reminders. Remember that time I helped you? I really helped you out. I owed you. Now you owe me. Like the Godfather, right? That, what is it that I have, I might ask you for a favor. What you owe me a favor. I may ask for it, or I may never ask for it. But if that day comes, you have to give me a favor. Like that. A person may keep reminding. So that's not good either. So now, this money that you're spending over here, at least you're spending, but you're not getting anything out of it. You're losing your dunya and you're losing your akhirah. Maybe somebody is going to say about you, he's generous. You know, my Sheikh Yunus, Jaunpuri, rahmatullahi alayhi, great muhaddis. People call him that he was like the Imam al-Muhaddithin fil Asr, right? Muhaddis al-Asr. That he was, when he would go, he lived in India, but when he'd go to the Arab countries, the Arab shuyukh would come and get ijazah from him in hadith, right? So he would say, he'd give advice, very nice. He said, look, when you do something, do it for Allah. The reason that you do it for Allah is if you do something for somebody else. Number one, when you're doing that action, you don't know if anybody is watching you or not. There might be somebody there, right? Like, I want to impress you. But you might not even be watching me. You might be zoned out. You might be looking at your phone. You might actually be looking at the clock. You're not seeing what I'm doing. So that, I'm not really impressing you, right? I think I am. I'm doing it for you. You don't even see it. Now, even if the person sees you, even if then, maybe they'll like what you're doing, maybe they won't like what you're doing. You don't even know if they'll be happy with what you did, right? You might have 100 critiques of what I'm doing. You might have a critique of this talk, right? You might have a criticism. Okay, even if you do like what I'm doing, there's no guarantee you'll do anything for me, right? Now, even if you do something for me, what are you going to do? Praise me? Give me some money? Give me some mithai? Give me some biryani? Something like that? It's going to be temporary. Nobody's going to say that, okay, I'm going to take care of you for the rest of your life on the basis of this talk that you just gave, right? So even if they do take care of you, how long is it going to last? But when you do something for Allah, you know that He's watching. And if it's something that's in accordance with His pleasure, that's been outlined very clearly, you know that He'll be happy. And when Allah is happy, you know that He'll give you something. And when He gives you something, that thing will last you in dunya and akhirah. Do things for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points to exactly this. وَمَاذَا عَلَيْهِمْ لَوْ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. How would it harm them? Why would it harm them if they believed in Allah? لَوْ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَأَنْفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهِ. And they spread from a little from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. So Allah is telling these people, look, you're not a lost cause. All you have to do is change your perspective a little bit. Mufti Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, Mufti Muhammad Shafi, father of Mufti Taqi Usmani and Mufti Azam of Pakistan, is Mufti Muhammad Shafi rahmatullahi alayhi, author of Ma'arif al-Quran. He used to say, in order to become a wali of Allah, you don't have to do anything very major. All you have to do is change the perspective through which you look at things, right? Do the same action, just change the perspective. You're already giving money. Give that money, but say, I'm doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you know that you have a habit of showing off and giving money, give it privately, give it in private, right? Do it, but do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give the same amount, don't give any more. Do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just change your perspective, right? Allah says, how will it hurt them if they believe in Allah and the Day of Judgment and they do this action for that rather than for people? وَأَنفَقُوا مِمَّا, spend a little bit. You don't have to give everything that you have. وَأَنفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِهِمْ عَلِيمًا. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows what you're doing. He knows your intention. He knows why you're spending. Whether you're doing it for His pleasure or for someone else. وَكَانَ بِهِمْ عَلِيمًا وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِهِمْ عَلِيمًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَظْلِمُ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah doesn't oppress the amount of the weight of a speck of dust. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't oppress anybody. He will not penalize you for anything wrong. Rather, right? وَإِن تَكُ حَسَنَةً, if you do something good, يُضَاعِفَ, Allah will multiply it. How much? Minimum in the Quran, مَنْ جَاءَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ فَلَهُ عَشْرُ أَمْثَالِهَا, 10. And then if it comes to wealth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply minimum 700 times. فَيُضَاعِفَهُ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يُضَاعِفُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ, Allah will multiply over 700 as well. If a person gives with ikhlas, right? If he wants. So, إِن تَكُ حَسَنَةً يُضَاعِفْهَا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will multiply the deeds. وَيُؤْتِ بِاللَّدُنْهُ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Look, Allah's done all of this calculation. Like, Brother Izzuddin, he gave $1 in sadaqah, but he gave it with so much ikhlas. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that, okay, the standard for sadaqah given with ikhlas, I multiply by 700, you got the reward of $700. But he gave it with a lot of ikhlas, so I'm going to multiply it by 2. So now you got the reward of giving $1,400, right? That's what it says on the paper. That's what you should get on the Day of Judgment. When you go on the Day of the Judgment, وَيُؤْتِ مِن لَدُنْهُ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you should be given the reward for giving $1,400 in sadaqah. I give you the reward of giving $500,000 in sadaqah. وَيُؤْتِ مِن لَدُنْهُ أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Directly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from Himself. He's not looking at the paper anymore, not looking at this is how much you did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, hey, take all of this extra as well. Allah gives مِن لَدُنْهُ directly from Him. وَيُؤْتِ مِن لَدُنْهُ, and Allah gives directly from Him أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا, great amount of reward. أَجْرًا عَظِيمًا. Right? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when will this reward come? When will they get the reward? Sometimes in the dunya, but usually in the akhirah. So now Allah shifts our attention to the akhirah. فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا. Look, why will it hurt you if you don't give if you give money with ikhlas and you believe in Allah on the Day of Judgment? Look, if you don't do that, if you don't set things right now, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِن كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, what will they do when we bring a witness from each community? فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِن كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ. And we bring you as a witness against them. فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِن كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. And we bring you as a witness against these people. Right? Interestingly enough, this is just related to this ayah. Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu is known for his beautiful recitation of Quran. So once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told Abdullah bin Mas'ud, you recite to me. So, Ya Rasulullah, should I recite when the Quran has been revealed to you? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I like to listen as well. Right? I like to listen. He likes to listen to beautiful recitation. Not, students reading so fast. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he likes to listen to beautiful recitation. So Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he started reciting from Surah An-Nisa. And he's reciting, he gets up to this ayah, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِن كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. So Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdullah bin Mas'ud realized Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was crying, his face was drenched with tears. And he told Abdullah, stop, it's enough. So that's why if you look in the Desi Qurans, over there it says, Waqfur Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That is like where Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he stopped, meaning not in Salat, but he told Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, you stop your recitation over here. So like if you're reading Salah, if you're in Salah, good to make ruku at this place, okay? So now, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, on that day, what will the situation be? I'll explain the next ayah, then I'll explain that there's 3 ayahs that they seem milte julte, like they're similar to one another, so people, they get them confused, right? Allah says, on that day, what will you do if you don't believe properly and the witnesses are brought? يَوْمَ إِذِي يَوَدُّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. On that day, the kuffar وَعَصَوُوا الرَّسُولِ, and those who disobeyed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, يوم إذ يود الذين كفروا وعصوا الرسول, they'll wish لو تسوى بهم الأرض, that the earth would swallow them up, meaning the earth would be flat, meaning it would take them under, right? لو تسوى بهم الأرض ولا يكتمون الله حديثا, they won't be able to hide anything from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning our intentions, our deeds, none of that will be hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They mean that just how the animals are turned to dust because they're غير مكلف on the day of judgment, they'll wish يقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا. The kafir will say, if only we could be dust, if we could be under the ground, if we would be forgotten, nasiya, mansiya, if we could be like that. But we're mukallaf. Allah's given us great power, Allah gave us great responsibility as well. We can't be the same as animals, right? So Allah is taking us from these rights, taking us to the akhirah. This is where you're going to see how when you fulfill these rights, what the result of it is. Okay, now, in this, there's three judgments or three testimonies that are going to take place on the day of judgment, right? And so people, they get confused about this sometimes. Number one, each of the nations will be called, and their individual prophet will come and be called to testify against them. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's nation, meaning Ummati Da'wah, those who he was sent to, they will also be called, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will testify against them, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahal, and these people, right? They'll be testified against. So in this, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is like the other prophets. Nuh alayhi salam's qawm will be called, he'll have to testify against them. Musa alayhi salam's people will be called, they'll have to testify against them, right? This is what this ayah is referring to. فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ. From every nation, there'll be a shaheed. وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. You'll also be brought as a witness over your nation. That's one. Then, and this is also referred to in Surah Nahl as well. وَيَوْمَ نَبْعَثُ مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ شَهِيدٍ. وَيَوْمَ نَبْعَثُ فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ شَهِيدًا عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ شَهِيدًا عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ. We bring you as well, right? Then there's another time when this ummah, what it will do is it will testify against all of the other ummahs. Meaning the other ummahs, like their prophet is testifying against them, then they're going to keep making excuses, right? They're going to keep making excuses. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, okay, to the prophet, to Nuh alayhi salam, to Ibrahim alayhi salam, give you examples. Do you have any witness? Yes, we have a witness. Who is that? The ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Right? So then the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will come and testify that Nuh alayhi salam is saying the truth, Ibrahim alayhi salam is saying the truth, Zakaria alayhi salam is saying the truth. So the people say, how is this valid? They weren't around at this time. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask them, how do you know? And this is all Allah's protocol. And now think about this. Think about how much questioning there is on the day of judgment. It's actually quite terrifying, right? That one is, the prophet is coming against the people. Number two, now the people arguing, so now Allah is calling the nation of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam the Ummatul Ijaba, those who accepted the call to testify. Right? They say, how do you know? They say, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he recited it to us, he taught us the Quran, we read the Quran. And then so, they say, we don't believe in that. So then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam will be brought, and he'll say that this ummah of mine is saying the truth. All of the other ummahs will accept. Now why don't they accept, why don't they object against Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Any idea? At that point, why will they all just accept and be quiet? Does anybody know? Think about the day of judgment. Something happened a little bit before this event, and that is Shafa'ati Kubra. That all of the prophets were asked to start the day of judgment, they said we can't. So then Rasulullah said, this is my job. And he went and he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with such du'as that even he, at that moment when mentioning this hadith, he didn't know what he was going to say. And finally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ya Muhammad irfa' ra'sa. Raise your head and ask what you want, son, and you'll be given what you want, right? So then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he asked for his ummah to be forgiven, he asked for the judgment to start. At that time, everybody will realize Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the leader of mankind. So now he's agreed upon. And now when he comes and he testifies on behalf of the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and on behalf of the other prophets, they can't say anything. That's the second one. This is referred to in, there's many ahadith about it, but it's referred to in the Quran in Surah Baqarah. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونُوا شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ وَيَكُونَ الرَّسُولُ عَلَيْكُمْ شَهِيدًا. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will come and reinforce the testimony of the ummah. Lastly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions a third place where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he will, his ummah, each group of the ummah, right? So like for example, the people in his time, they'll testify against the kuffar of their time. People in our time will testify against the people in our time. Each of us will do that, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he'll also, be brought there, right? وجاهد, this is Surah Hajj. وجاهدوا في الله حق جهاده واجتباكم وجعل عليكم في الدين من حرج ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين من قبل وفي هذا ليكون الرسول شهيدا عليكم وتكونوا شهداء على الناس. Right? So that ummah of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, us, we'll be like testifying against the people in our time. وتكونوا شهداء على الناس. And this is why one time a person died, people were saying good things about him. Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, wajabat. So what is wajabat? He said that Jannah is wajib on this person. Hadith in Bukhari Sharif. So then they said, why do you say this? He said, because one time a person died and people were saying good things about him. And perhaps there's another example, I don't want to misquote the hadith, where a person, bad things were said about him as well. And Rasulullah said, wajabat. And then Umar said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you saying, what is wajib? So Jannah is wajib or Jahannam is wajib. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Umar said, why? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, because when people say good things about them when they pass away, a large amount of people, Jannat is wajib on them because antum shuhada'ullahi fil ard. You are the witnesses of Allah in this earth. And when bad things are said about a person after they die, antum shuhada'ullahi fil ard. You are the shuhada of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth, right? Should be very careful, like when a person, like we don't know when our life is going to end, and anytime when we meet somebody, they don't know what's going on in our life, right? It's like right now, I could be like, arguing with my spouse. Alhamdulillah, it's good, but I'm just saying, like, they could be arguing. That's bothering me. I come here, somebody says something to me, I give like a, quick, smart answer or something, right? That person, I don't see them again. They're just passing through. They have this bad impression of me their entire life. But I'm not like that. Inshallah, I'm not like that. But you have like a bad impression, right? Because every moment of your life, what you're doing is nobody knows what's going on with you. They're living their life. So they have like this little snippet, right? So now when you pass away, it shouldn't be that when you pass away, oh, there's that person that was rude to me on that day. Like, it happens, sometimes somebody's rude to you and then they pass away and you say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, but the first thing that comes to your mind is those negative things that happened, right? So we should try to put our best self forward, our best thing, regardless of how our day is going, try to show somebody else our best, because the only place that we live in other people's life is in their memories, right? So we want people to say good things about us, so we have to be very careful. So on the Day of Judgment, inshallah, nobody will be able to testify against us. After we die, inshallah, nobody should be able to testify against us. But you make mistakes, Anybody know what do you do when somebody is, when you hurt somebody and you can't find them? You make a lot of dua for them. And you give sadaqah for them. And you do this and that, hoping that, Ya Allah, give them so much that they don't come after me on the Day of Judgment. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the terrifying ahwal of the Day of Judgment. It's ahwal and ahwal, both. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from both of those on the Day of Judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who fulfill the rights of others in this world, so that on the Day of Judgment we'll be relaxing, so that we'll be drinking from the hold of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, so that we'll be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's arsh. Inshallah, we'll stop there. Next week, inshallah, Allah gives tawfiq, we'll speak about the laws of the process of alcohol being outlawed in Islam. Inshallah, for the next few weeks, until the time changes, we'll just keep it after Maghrib, so that it's still early-ish, but we get done by around 8 o'clock. But Riyadh al-Salihin from next week, Wednesdays, this will be after Isha. Because now it's coming down into the maktab time, so kids are going to be like making noise and stuff.
Okay, sure.
So Riyadh al-Salihin next week, inshallah, after Isha. Tafseer will remain after Maghrib until the time change, inshallah.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Shahul bhai, kaise?
Alhamdulillah. Is it still recording?
Huh? Yeah, it's recording. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. That was CNN, the other one Fox News.